Hey guys, it's Miss Gregory. We are talking about converting fractions, decimals, and percents. This information is in our textbook, Chapter 2, specifically lessons 2.1 to 2.4. It's not going to be covered in class. Technically, it's not part of the standard, but we do feel like you need to have some review on how to change back and forth so that you can compare and order them when we get into the percent section at the end of Chapter 2. So if you need extra examples, be sure to look back there. You are going to need to take notes. This will just require notebook paper, pencil, pen. It would be helpful to have your book close by in case you need to turn into that, which you will later. So don't forget, this is time for taking notes. When you see the picture of the pencil, make sure you copy everything down. Alright, the first thing we're going to talk about is the lollipop way. So notice the pencil, you should be writing this down on your notebook paper. At the top of your paper, make sure you've got your name, date, period, and the title from the video, which is Converting Decimals, Fractions, and Percents. Okay? Now, label this the lollipop way. And you'll see here in just a minute when I work through these examples why it's called the lollipop way of changing decimals to fractions. If you understand and remember your place value for decimals, the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, really if you know your place value, there's no need for any lollipop tricks, but for those of you that have trouble sometimes remembering the place values, the lollipop way will help you out. So here's what we do with the lollipop. So we've got 0.95, which is red, 95 hundredths. Some people can say the decimal and turn it into a fraction just by reading it. Others need a little more help. So what we're going to do is you are going to copy. Alright, now I'm going to change colors. You need to put a circle around the decimal point and you need to draw a lollipop stick. So now it looks like a lollipop. Okay, we talk about putting gumdrops under the rest of the numbers. So we've got a gumdrop under the 9, a gumdrop under the 5. Okay, to finish it off, look how neatly and nicely it looks like a fraction. Okay, so the fraction would be 95 over 100. Now pay attention to the directions. If the directions tell you to change the decimal to a fraction and make sure the fraction is in simplest form, then you would not be able to leave your answer 95 100ths. You would need to divide both the top and bottom by 5. However, because you are trying to compare and order, it may not be necessary for you to put it in simplest form. So for now, I'm going to leave this as 95 hundredths. And let's do another example. Okay, copying this over. And let me change colors. Alright, lollipop goes around the decimal. Draw your lollipop stick, make your gumdrops, which are obviously zeros, and draw your fraction bar. So now we're back to an answer of 147 thousandths. Okay, again, some of you may already realize how it should be written because you have memorized your place value, but this is a helpful trick if you are working and you question yourself. Okay, now let's try this example. It has a whole number to the left of the decimal point, and you will run into that occasionally as well, and I want you to know what to do with the mixed number. So, again, lollipop method. You've got your gumdrops and your fraction bar. So, remember, this is a mixed number. The whole number is before the decimal place, so 2 is your whole number. 3 is your numerator, 100 is your denominator. So 2 and 3/100ths, decimal form 2.03, is changed to fraction form, which technically is mixed numbers, 2 and 300. So this is the quick, easy lollipop way. Make sure you have copied everything on this page, including the examples with the lollipop circles. Okay? When you are ready, move to the next slide. Okay, there are several ways that you may need in your bag of tricks to change fractions to decimals. It depends on the denominator. Some of them are easy, like number 1. You may even know them off the top of your head. Others are a little harder, and we're going to work with multiples of 10s. And then there's the old tried and true cowboy way. You're going to have to get on your horse and ride and divide it out. So I'll talk about each of these methods as we go through the examples. Okay, so the easy method, let me change colors here. The easy method is sometimes you already have memorized a fraction to decimal conversion. You've worked with them so often you automatically know them off the top of your head. Okay, so 1/2 should be one of those because you're halfway there. Okay, so excuse me, 0.5 or 5/10 would be the decimal. Okay, again, some of you already know your place values, so you know that the first place to the right of the decimals is called the tenths place. So you know that 3/10 written as a decimal would be 0.3. Okay? Then there are others that maybe not quite as easy, you don't know it off the top of your head, but you could simplify by finding a GCF. In this case, I would divide both numerator and denominator by 3, and I would end up with an answer of 4/5. And depending on your knowledge, you could take it from there to a decimal by using one of the next two methods. For me, this is one I know off the top of my head is going to be 0.8. Okay, I think a 4 out of 5 is 80%. 80% is 0.8. All right, so the second way is using multiples of 10. So tens, hundreds, and thousands, okay, as your denominator. So if you can easily change the denominator to something over 10, 100, or 1,000, those are the ones you know how to easily change in your head because of the place values. So if you look at 2/5, you can easily change that to a denominator with 10. I'm going to change colors here and say, of course, 5 times 2, and across the top 2 times 2. So we're talking about a final answer of 4/10. Okay? Make sure you are copying these examples, or you're pausing and copying the screen after you've listened to me. All right, the next example for 25ths, 25 should be a denominator you could easily change to 100. You're used to working with quarters and dollars, so this should be easy. Changing colors here. 25 times 4 gives you 100. 4 times 4 gives you 16. So we're back to 16 over 100. Okay? Now, once you change these to 4/10 and to 16/100ths, these are now the easy ones that you know the decimal place value. You have those memorized, so you know that 16/100ths, standing for 16 over 100, would be written as 0.16. Going back to 2/5, we change it to 4/10, so if we're putting it as a decimal, that would be 0.4. And then we come to Cowboy Method. This is the long, hard way. You don't want to do it this way unless you have to. The other ways are much quicker. Okay, but you know that the fraction bar means to divide. So you need to say 5 divided by 7. Okay? So 5 divided by 7. Or, in other words, the top dog falls into the dog house. Okay? That's the main error that people make, is they don't know which number is the divisor and which is the dividend. Okay? Now you are going to need to annex some zeros. I don't know how many. I put down a few. Okay? We know that 7 will not go into 5. We know that 7 will go into 57 times, and it won't go evenly. It'll go 49 times. 1 left over. Bring down a 0. 7 goes into 10 one time, and we have 3 left. And again, I'm going to need to bring down a 0. 7 goes into 30. Again, not evenly. It will go 4 times. And we would need to keep going on this. Now, sometimes you'll see in the directions it may say round the decimal to the nearest, and they'll give you a place value. Round it to the nearest tenth or hundredth or thousandth. Okay? All you need is to be able to round it to a place where you can compare and order the other numbers in your list. So let's say for this problem we needed to round to the nearest hundredth. Then this would be 0.71, because if I look at who's knocking at the back door, which is the number 4, 4 would not tell me to round up. I would need to stay. So 71 hundredths if the directions were to round, or if that's all I needed to figure out and compare the order. Okay, so now you've got 3 ways. The easy way, using a multiple of 10, like 10, 100, or 1,000, or simply dividing the fraction and changing it to a decimal. Okay, make sure you copied everything down before you move to the next page. All right, this page is just kind of your instructions or your rules, but you do need to write this down. This is changing from percents to decimals, or the other way, from decimals to percent. So we came up with, several years ago, a very easy way to remember which way you move. Okay, and it may sound silly, but if it helps you remember how to change decimals and percents, then go with it. So we have the DPR, or the Dipper way. Some people even call it the Dr. Pepper way. But when you have a decimal and you are trying to change it to a percent, so see, there's decimal to a percent, you're going to move to the right. And you're always going to move to the right 2 times, okay? Because we're talking about hundreds. So if you're starting with a decimal and you need to change it to a percent, you're going to move to the right 2 times. So in this example here, notice I've got the pencil. You should be writing this down. You're going to move your decimal over 2 times to the right. And you would also need to add a percent sign. Okay, so the decimal 47 hundredths becomes 47%. Now, if you're moving the other direction, if you start with a percent and you need to change it to a decimal, percent to decimal, you're going to move left, and you're going to move to the left again 2 times. So we've got an example of 78%, and you're going to insert a decimal at the end of the whole number, and you're going to move it to the left 2 times, and then you will simply drop the percent symbol. So when you go to put your final answer, your answer is 78 hundredths, okay? There are many examples in the lessons 2.1 through 2.4 where you can practice this if you need to practice. It's very easy once you get the hang of it. But again, make sure you've copied this down before you move to the next page. Okay. You are going to stop, use your workbook, open it to page 128. You are going to work these problems. You are now going to practice some of the tricks that you've learned or whatever you need to do to come up with on your own, but you're going to practice changing and converting decimals, fractions, and percents. Okay? This is your workbook, page 128. You actually are going to do all of the problems. So you'll see there is number 1. You need to talk about the term percent, which is discussed at the beginning of chapter 2. You're going to write a definition, and then you are going to change the fraction to a percent and change the fraction to a decimal. You are going to do numbers 2 through 7, and then you're going to continue with the bottom and go numbers 8 through 10. So you are going to do every question on the page, numbers 1 through 10. You're going to try them all on your own, and then you can come back and check. Don't forget that with each problem at the end, like in question number 8, if you forgot how to do this, it tells you right here which lesson to turn back to. So if you need more help than just the video, then you can turn back to lesson 2.4. Chapter 2, lesson 4 is talking about how to change decimals to percents. So if you look in parentheses at the end of each problem, it'll tell you which lesson to turn back to get some help. Alright, so yes, I love math and assume that everything I teach will be on the exam. We will actually go over the answers to these in class. I want you to work them on your own. Bring back the paper. We will check and go over the answers together in class. Bye, y'all. Miss Gregory.